We got it to work on my side of things. All right. So the Hangout is live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for allowing us to be a couple minutes late here, just getting everything set up in the back end here. And I won't blame Leslie, but it was not my fault this time. Last time it was my fault. So does anybody have any news to get things going before Leslie starts his presentation?
Now, I don't know that it's news, but I was reading Avinash's blog this morning talking about universal analytics and compelling user ID information to where you not only get cross-platform and cross-machine data, so that if you implement, and it's a bunch of code, and I'm not a coder girl, but if you can implement code to where you can get some user IDs, you're able to actually persist their data across every experience they have with your site, wherever they are. So from their phone to a tablet to a laptop, if you have a compelling reason for them to have a user ID, and you can actually pass that back to Universal. And I was reading about that today, and that looked really cool. I mean, I don't know how the code works yet, but imagine this: one person that visits 7 different ways is still that one person instead of 7 different people. So I thought that was pretty cool this morning.
That's really cool. I'm pretty sure Dan and Leslie are going to talk about this at some point here coming up soon, but I want to say April 21st, Google is going to start looking at if your site's mobile responsive and ranking accordingly. I'm pretty sure we'll have more information on that. What's that?
It'll be a factor then, one of the factors.
Yeah, it'll be a ranking factor for mobile users in order for your site to show up. Looks like Leslie lost all sound. I can't hear him.
Wow. It's a good call today so far.
I'm just slacking with him here. So mobile is Terry's awesome. Terry says accepting all blame and giving all credit. Sounds like a program manager. So mobile responsive sites are going to be necessary in order to get mobile traffic from Google SERPs. Obviously, if you're only reliant on Google, then that'll have a major impact. If you're reliant on multiple traffic sources, it's not going to have quite as big of an impact.
Well, and even the e-commerce measurement of things, for instance, for those who are looking at it from an e-commerce standpoint, e-commerce is still a very small part in the big scheme of things of the traffic that happens on the web. The actual transaction, I think, I don't know, it's still less than 10%, but huger now, it was huger
Most
on
hugest?
mobile. More hugest on mobile this last holiday than it has been before. And we've seen it more and more the more I dig into customer response. I'm even working with a customer this week where we're doing some Facebook promotion, and 40 to 50% of their Facebook traffic is coming from mobile to their e-commerce site.
Sheesh.
I mean, it's big.
Well, but hang on. 50% of their tracked Facebook traffic is from mobile.
Right, and this isn't even tracking through Google Analytics. It's tracking through UTM stuff. I mean, right through Shopify's thing. So yes, whatever is being tracked, right?
But so it's using tracking codes as opposed to the referral.
Right.
Oh, okay. That's more fair then. I mean, that's still not going to get everything, but it's better. Yeah.
But it's still pretty big to have 40% of your traffic coming to shop on a phone or a mobile device.
And so now let me read what Dan sent me before he had to leave to go deal with some clients. And so the mobile friendliness. And so yes, it's the 21st, but specifically, you see, they can really just detect exactly mobile responsiveness, not exactly. And he is going to. This will be the topic of next week, by the way. So next week, Dan's going to present about the deep detail on this. And there's some tools that you use. And this was actually broken apparently by Alan Blayless originally. If you block Google bought access to style sheets in JavaScript. You may be graded as non-mobile friendly, even though everything will appear fine with Google's Page Speed Insights tool. And so now that's because apparently the Insights tool doesn't really abide by robots. That wouldn't surprise me. Miley confirmed that sites which are blocking mobile-related resources, scripts and CSS in particular, can expect to see a significant drop on mobile in April. Dan has got some feelers out and is waiting for some clarification. Let's see, it's safe to say the user age detection and redirection is going to fail in a big way. Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with him there. He says, I'm waiting for more clarification, but I think it's safe to say that user agent detection and redirection is going to fail in a big way. I don't agree with that. I think if you do it the right way, that always works. And there's no way to make it not work. It's like proving a negative. However, we'll have to see. And Dan's going to speak about that. I will not be on the Hangout next week or the week following, but we'll see how this sorts out. This is admittedly with the majority of search moving to mobile. Desktop search plateaued. When was it? I can't even remember the year. A couple years ago. Yeah, sure. Mobile's important, but we'll have to see how this sorts out.
Yeah.
Let's see how it sorts out.
And real quick, just a reminder for everybody, yes, this is recorded. That's why we're using Google Hangouts. It'll actually be live on the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/marketersbraintrust. Approximately 5 to 10 minutes after we finish, it actually buffers and loads up.
Yeah. In fact, you can even watch it there now instead of watching it here, which is like no different. But anyway. Terry said, we'll also provide a definition of what optimize for mobile actually mean. Yeah, optimize for mobile. Admittedly, yeah, what does optimize for mobile mean? At least on desktop, we know that they're actually rendering the page. So very likely they're doing something similar for mobile.
For the indicators that Google was giving in that article that Leslie was referring to were things like if you weren't optimized, things like your links are too close together, your text is small, so a lot of layout issues.
Right. And those they can absolutely, with the rendering technology, you can absolutely find all of those, right? So, but yeah, it's not going to be a perfect list, but it's going to be better than none at all. And God knows, you look at some of the biggest websites in the world, you look at them on mobile, they're pathetic, just pathetic. You can't read anything, and even with pinch zoom on an iPhone, it's still nearly unusable. So, not surprising that Google's figured out they need to do something about mobile responsiveness. Okay, so today we're going to talk about Google Analytics, kind of the next frontier in analytics, which is actually Google Tag Manager combined with analytics. And I've got a screencast presentation. This is going to be entirely interactive, so it'll go about the way you would expect interactive to go, kind of like booting up a Hangout, for example. So I'll cover briefly Google Tag Manager, what it is, what it does, why you should actually give a crap. How to create an account, that's pretty simple. Google loves for you to create an account, as long as there's only one. God forbid you should have more than one Google account. Then how to create a profile. The profile, just like for analytics account profile, is associated with a particular website. I'll show you an example of that. And then how to put the code, the Google Tag Manager code on your website. And yes, you do have to actually have code on your website, strangely enough. But once you put the Google Tag Manager code on your website, there's only one instance where you have to touch that again. And I'll cover that case. And then we'll configure user analytics into Google Tag Manager. We'll show you the tag, the rule, how to publish, some of the versions, or some things like that you need to understand. They're unique to Google Tag Manager. And then we'll actually use an example of a tracking pixel. And then finally, clicks on a call to action item. Okay, so these are kind of runs the gamut of kind of some of the the basic features in Google Tag Manager. There's some things you can do beyond that that are even cooler, like you can do some simple split testing of, like, say, switch out a orange button with a green button, see which one works better, for example. You can do that entirely within Google Tag Manager. Don't necessarily recommend it. I think you should really use convert.com for that. But there are small things you can do in Google Tag Manager which are still very useful. So let's start with why should you change what you're doing in terms of analytics. All right. Some of you, I know, are using original Urchin code. I know this because you're clients. You should stop doing that. Some of you use our synchronous analytics code. You should stop that because it impacts page load speed. Some of you have not upgraded to universal analytics. You should do that. It's easy to do. Takes, I don't know, 5 minutes, something like that. There's no loss of data. And there are some things in universal analytics that you do not have in classical analytics. They've made things simpler. A lot of things pretty simpler. It's sort of like custom variables, now it's custom dimensions. Sounds like a rename. In reality, there's a little bit more to it than that. So if you're not on universal analytics, you need to be. And then you should need to have the question, well, should I be using Google Tag Manager? There are two cases to consider. Now, first of all, you could be using classical analytics and Google Tag Manager, but that's like silly. I mean, why would you upgrade to Google Tag Manager and not go click the damn button in analytics and say upgrade to universal, right? Upgrading universal is a no-brainer. If you haven't done that, just do that. In fact, do it now. Open another window and go do it while I'm talking, right? You don't have to actually watch me talk. And so universal analytics is a no-brainer. Google Tag Manager, not so much. So let's look at the two cases. If you're a lead gen, so you've got like forms in your website but no checkout funnel, no taking money with a credit card, then the answer is yes, you should upgrade to Google Tag Manager. It's a no-brainer. If you're an e-commerce vendor, you need to understand whether or not your cart supports Google Tag Manager. Not all of them do. Some of them require a plug-in. So that's on a case-by-case basis as to whether or not you can really expect to upgrade to Google Tag Manager. Now you could, if you have a website and a third-party hosted cart, you could actually use Google Tag Manager on your site and then use Universal Analytics on your e-commerce site, and that would, on your third-party e-commerce site, third-party hosted commerce site, that would work, all right? A little bit unusual. But you need to understand for e-commerce, the e-commerce tracking code for Google Tag Manager is different than the code for Universal Analytics. So it's not just flip the switch and you're good. It's not that easy. So for e-commerce, bear in mind you have to do a little bit of research. Now I will say if you are, if you have questions about that, we might know the answer, we might not. Depends upon what cart you're using. So you could email me, and we can put this in chat. Leslie plus GTM at marketersbraintrust.com, and I'll see if I can at least find the answer for you. All right. So Leslie plus, I guess I should put that in there, shouldn't I? Let's just do that. So this is just so it gets filtered into the right mailbox. I did it right, Leslie, marketersbraintrust.com. All right, and so let's see. We take donations via web form. I assume that what Leslie saying about e-commerce applies to these types of credit card submission forms. Matt, that depends. A credit card submission form. I don't know exactly what that means. If you have a form that takes credit card information, does it clear? Does it clear the funds immediately? That sounds like a shopping cart to me. So or like a one-step shopping cart at least. The real question is about how the tracking is done. So here's the thing. In order to track transactions, what happens is on the thank you page in a transaction. So I go to an order, a cart page, a checkout page, a thank you page. On the checkout page, I put in all my credit card information and it says complete your order, and up on the thank you page. On the thank you page is where the e-commerce tracking information for Google Analytics goes. That block of JavaScript codes that's on the thank you page when you're using Universal Analytics is different than the code that's put there when you're using Google Tag Manager. And without getting into the excruciating detail of what the code looks like, okay, it's just different. Just bear in mind, it's just different. You could, like I said, you can have a split personality where the rest of your site's GTM using UA, I know, a lot of acronyms there, and then on the checkout page, it's just using direct UA. Don't necessarily recommend that. That's a little bit trickier. You know, we could certainly set that up for you if you wanted to use our service, but that's not something I would recommend that the uninitiated go try, okay? So just bear in mind, there's two groups of people who are watching this phone call: lead gen folks, e-commerce folks. For lead gen folks, it's a brain dead simple decision. Update to good GTM as soon as you possibly can. For you e-commerce folks, a little bit more research has to be determined whether or not it's be done to determine whether or not your cart supports it. So with that said, let's look at the basics of Google Tag Manager. What does it actually mean? And so part of the problem is the word tag. It's about as dumb as WordPress calling posts and pages, but everything is a page. But okay, never mind. Tag is a problem as well. What they're really talking about is scripts, not tags. It should be called Script Manager, not Tag Manager. It doesn't manage tags. A tag would be like title or image or anchor. That's not what it's doing. It's managing scripts, okay? And so script tags, which would be things like the analytics tracking script or the remarketing script for AdWords or for Facebook, or the script for convert.com, for example, for doing A/B split testing. Those are the kind of tags they're talking about. The only tags they're talking about are start with bracket script, right? That's the only tags that Google Tag Manager actually manages. So it should be called Google Script Manager. Sorry about that. I can't be responsible for that kind of stupidity. My only stupidity is the only one anyway. So here we go. So let's go take a look at what Google Tag Manager looks like and how to start. So first of all, you do have to. Let me see here. What is that? Oh, that's the old one, which didn't work. Let's see. Here we go. So here is I'm in my Google Tag Manager account for LeslieRody.com. I've got two profiles in here. If you want to look at how do you actually go about creating a Google Tag Manager account? Well, that's pretty easy. And if you have a Google account at all, I mean, it's basically you already have one, by the way. So if we just go look at Tag Manager, whoops, too soon. It'll be here though. Well, all right, let's try that again. Manager, without hitting the return key too soon. And there it is, Google.com Tag Manager. Like brilliantly, thought of URL. Already have an account, then sign in, which is where we end up, right? Go ahead.
Do you want to be sharing your screen?
Oh crap, I'm not. That's right. Hang on. Yes, I do. Thank you. Why?
Okay.
Thanks for reminding me before I actually went through the entire presentation.
I'm getting better at it.
So I don't think I can do that. I think you have to.
Oh,
No, I can do that. Yeah.
Okay. I made you the presenter.
Yeah. Here we go. And there we go, the indefinite regress. Okay, cool. All right, so here we go. So you want to find out where Tag Manager is. Amazingly, you Google it. Wow, guys, Google is pretty cool. It might actually catch on. And so, sure enough, it's a top result for Tag Manager. Although there are other Tag Managers. There are commercial equivalents to this, but like, why would you bother? This one's free and it actually works really well. And so if you can create an account here. It's really simple. It's just like creating a Gmail account. I'm not going to bore you with that. That's insane, right? Hit the sign in button and yes, what happens? You go to a screen that looks just like that, except yours will have probably no profiles in it because you have no websites. So the first thing is each one of those is a separate website. So left side systems, one of my website, and leslierowe.com with my blog, and that's the one we're going to be working on here. I'll show you using my blog, since I never like post to it and I don't need any traffic anyway. It's like, what the heck? It might as well be an experiment. We also have Google Tag Manager installed on Marketer's Braintrust, but I'm not going to mess with that because like we actually make real money there. So, so here's how we create one. So new container is what it's called. Now you can create a user and share that with somebody. So if you have somebody, a contractor, so for example, if we're doing conversion optimization work for you, then you're going to add us as a user, and so that we can actually get in here and muck around in your Google Tag Manager account, for example. If you have contractors and employees, same kind of thing. But we're going to create a new website, and I'm going to create a completely dummy website called dummy.com. That's probably taken, by the way. Where to use the container? It works on apps and web pages. We're going to use web pages. And you can set the domain, the time zone for reporting purposes. Great, Eastern time zone, and away we go. So now I have this new container. It gives me code, and you'll notice this looks a lot like the gobbledygook you get when you create a profile in Universal Analytics. It works the same way. So to make this real, what happens is when you put this code on your website, and then you define Universal Analytics in Google Tag Manager, what happens is this code calls Google Tag Manager, which then calls Google Analytics. It's basically a set of indirection, right? So instead of having, let's say you've got Universal Analytics, Convert.com, Crazy Egg, remarketing code, and let's see, what else might we add? Facebook remarketing code. So you have 5 scripts on every page on your website. Well, a pain in the ass to manage, right? Instead, you drop just this code right here on your website, and all the rest of them, that's not quite true. Convert.com doesn't work that way. Bear with me. So 4 of the others, you actually put in Google Tag Manager. So you can separate where you're managing all these different tracking scripts, so you don't have to actually go put them on your website. Now, for those of you who are maintaining your own WordPress site, you think, no big deal, right? It's as easy to put them with one place or another. Trust me, that's not really true, and I'll show you why in a little bit. For you people with larger organizations where you have like an IT team, oh my God, you don't want to ever ask them to do anything that you don't have to, and so this makes a huge difference. So the idea with Google Tag Manager is you put one piece of code on your website, it calls your Google Tag Manager account and executes everything else. So let's look at the way that works. Now, we don't need to actually continue with dummy.com because it's it's a dummy. And so let's go back here to the account. Let's look instead at at Leslie Rowe. So there are 3 top-level ideas you need to know in Google Tag Manager. We're going to go through real examples on these. So just let me introduce the terms, and then we'll go show you how each one of them works. So there's the idea of tags, which I said is actually scripts. And this is right here the list of different scripts that I've installed on leslierowe.com, and I don't use most of these. Come on, right? This is a test, right? So no, I'm not running AdRoll on leslierowe.com. That'd be a complete waste of money. AdWords conversion, same way. I do not run pay-per-click ads at my personal blog, strangely enough. Most of these are just about testing, right? I mean, this is the test area for me. Rules are how tags are fired. So let's start with this. And this is one of the great powers of Google Tag Manager. So imagine that I wanted to track events on a particular area of my website, but not the entire area of the website. Well, gosh, how do I do that? That means I have to go in there and somehow convince the content management system, WordPress in my case, to put the analytics code only on a small number of pages. Wow, that's a pain, by the way. Like here, I'm going to track the thank you page. I mean, that's where I know that the URL equals thankyou.html. That's great. I can do that in analytics. It's just a little bit tricky to do. Here, the home page equals /. Same problem. If I want to have an event that triggers only on a particular page, you can do it in analytics. It's easy to do in Google Tag Manager, and it's one of the better selling points, frankly. Things like site search form, outbound clicks. It's like here you'll notice this one says that the element URL does not match anything that looks like my domain name, right? Again, it's possible to do in analytics. Yoast's plugin does something equivalent to this, but it's way easy to do in analytics, and we'll walk through actually doing it. So these are the rules, and tags are set to execute on a particular rule. So let's go through. Let's see. Oh, let's show you where the code is on the site. Your mileage will differ slightly in this, but I'll show you where to put the code and talk about the different ways you can get it there. So let's see. Right here. So here we are on the dashboard for LeslieRoeder.com. I use Genesis on this site, and there's a way in Genesis to add scripts, and so get that open here. I think it's on this page. It must be in. Oh, hang on a second. I have to find it now. Hang on. It's in hooks, right? Wait for it. Is it theme settings? Thought I was going to find it in hooks. You want it in potentially two places. Now you can do it all in one place, but it's actually supposed to be right here. It would be in a footer / body tag. Hang on a second. Did I get it removed? That would be brilliant. Oh, simple hooks. I put it in simple hooks. And so here I'm using a Genesis plugin named Simple Hooks instead of putting it in general. Okay, so here we go. There are two pieces to this. For my website, one could argue whether I needed both of them, but again, I did it as an experiment. So first of all, Google Tag Manager in general, the script should be just before the end body tag. So depending upon what content management system you're using, it'll be in the theme settings itself, which actually Genesis supports this, or you can use a plugin like I'm using here with the Simple Hooks in order to get this Google Tag Manager code. Now this was copied directly out of the Google Tag Manager profile settings, like what I showed you when I created dummy.com. Okay, this is that code for that particular website profile. You want to make sure this right before the end body tag. Why? That's complicated. We don't need to get into that. Just do it. Now, there's a thing called the data layer, which is used as a way to communicate between scripts on the page and Google Tag Manager. That really needs to be initialized at the beginning, either in the end of the head section or in the beginning of the body tag, one or the other. And so there's really actually two pieces of the script here if you wanted to get sticky. Now, you could dispense with the data layer entirely, but you lose some features when you do that. You can also combine the data layer, so you can actually initialize this data layer right here. Oops. So you could put this, and you could actually include it down here in wherever that script starts. It's right there. You could include it there. Again, you lose a little bit of capability when you do that. So I don't recommend doing it. Don't try to finesse this. Put your data layer initialization, that creates an empty data layer, at the beginning of your page, and this executes Google Tag Manager at the end of your page. That's the most powerful, most complete way to use Google Tag Manager. I'm not looking at comments. Corey, is this going completely over the heads of people, or any questions I need to answer?
Terry just said WordPress has a place to load Google Analytics script. Is there a place for Google Tag Manager script? Kind of sounds like you're covering that.
The answer is no. I mean, that's the thing, is that it would be nice if at some point, I mean, we're talking about 2 years from now, yes, a WordPress core probably has a check the box Google Tag Manager option. That's not the case now. Same with like Yoast Google Analytics. I mean, it supports Universal, but it supports Google Tag Manager. So that's just as we were when Urshan was first available, right? And so you're going to have to, like in my case, I think Yoast is uninstalled. I think I uninstalled it. You can't use Yoast Analytics with Google Tag Manager. That's redundant. You'll be double counting traffic, you know, which makes your traffic numbers high and your conversion numbers low, by the way, if you haven't figured that math out. We have one client that's counting all their page views 3 times, which that affects conversion. So, no, there's not a kind of a check-the-box approach where you just like drop your Google Tag Manager ID into a form. Wouldn't surprise me, you know, next month or two somebody's got a plugin that does that. But for now, and it's really straightforward to do, is just copy and paste the code. So just plan on doing that. It's worth the effort, trust me. And well, don't trust me, just continue watching. So that's where the code goes. Okay, so now the code's on the page. Now what? Who cares, right? Well, let's configure Universal Analytics. That would be the most basic thing to do. And so I will show you how UA is installed here, and then we'll actually walk through the process. I'll do a duplicate. Before I show you that, realize that Google Tag Manager configurations are versioned. You can see here, and so I can edit this and throw it away and not update. And you will find yourself do that more and more, actually, as you dig into this. And I think I'm at version, let me see what version I'm at, like 832, okay? So I've modified the Google Tag Manager setup on this site 32 times, and I can look at any of the prior ones to see what incredibly stupid mistakes I was making in that version. You know, just in case you forget how bad you are at something, you can look back in history. And there are some finesse things that you won't get right the first time, so it's really good to have version history, incidentally. You see here, this was kind of a busy period, lots of changes. So let's work through a real example. This is what Universal Analytics plugin, a tag, looks like. So I just click on that tag. So here I'm in tags. I click on UA. And this summarizes what it is. So it says it's a Universal Analytics tag, and there's the tracking ID, which of course you get out of your analytics account. That's no big surprise. It's of type track page view, and there's some other things here. And now this is the firing rule. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, there's something I didn't cover before, which was macros. And here's an example of a macro, and that's curly curly URL curly curly. That's a macro. So that's the URL of the page that this tag is associated with matches that regular expression, which is .star. That matches everything. And if you don't understand regular expressions, they're pretty simple. Just go to Wikipedia and look up regular expression, and you'll get a nice, simple explanation of them. So the summary here is that the UA tag, which is of type Universal Analytics, is going to fire on all pages on my site. So what does that mean? When the GTM tag when the GTM script executes, which is on all pages of my site, right? It's going to call into Google Tag Manager, and Google Tag Manager is going to look through this list of tags, and wherever it matches, it sees all pages, matches this firing rule, matches the page that's being called for. It's going to execute that. So it's going to execute UA. It's also going to execute form submit listener, and it's also going to execute add rule all visitors. You see, anything that matches. I must have missed one. Oh, link click listener as well. It's going to do link click listener. I'll show you what all these mean in just a minute. So anytime the page matches all pages, it's going to fire those, what is that, 4 rules. Okay? Now, what if it's on the home page only? Well, it's going to execute Crazy Egg, and it's going to execute Sumo Me, which is a little plugin I was playing with. Okay. So you see, here you can literally be very specific and very targeted about where you want to do certain things. Let's get a real example. Let's say that I'm doing Facebook or AdWords remarketing audiences, and I want to change what audience I add somebody in based upon, or even whether I want them in an audience at all. That's a better example, based upon what page they hit. Well, then I want to execute that script on only those pages that indicate that they should be in the audience. Does that make sense? So right now, let's see. Let's go ahead. I'll show you the creation of this tag. In fact, we'll just delete it and recreate it. How about that? So here we go. I'm going to copy that so I have it, and I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to go tags, and I'm going to edit that tag. Then we get on here and I'm do this. And by the way, do not do this at home. Delete this tag. I understand the consequences and still want to delete this tag. Yes, I do. Because hey, it doesn't get any traffic anyway, so who cares? So there we go. So now I do not actually, and now suddenly I do not have any page view tracking on LeslieRoeder.com. Okay. So, but actually I do. Notice right here, and you will be tripped up by this. I mean, ask me how I know. The first 8 iterations of testing I did with Google Tag Manager, I forgot to publish. And so I couldn't figure out why tracking didn't work. Okay, well, there you go. Right now you're basically working kind of a draft mode. So I deleted my UA tag, but if you go look at my, you're going to see continued tracking. The fact of the matter is I'm still tracking to Universal Analytics because I haven't published this. As soon as I hit the publish button, then suddenly I'm going to lose all tracking. All page view tracking. So yeah, create and publish, bingo. All right. Now I'm showing that I have, version 33 is the one that's out there in the wild. And so as you're visiting my blog right now, I'm not tracking those page views. Interesting enough, I'm tracking other things like thank you page clicks and our AdWords conversions, and Crazy Egg is running on the home page, and I'm tracking outbound clicks, and I'm tracking a whole bunch of things, but not page views. That's because I deleted the UA tag. All right, well, let's go put it back on, shall we? Of course, for those of you following along, you go, hey, wait, couldn't you just roll back to version 32? Yes, I could, but we're going to define version 34 for those of you working along at home so that you can actually see how you create a tag. So here I go to tags, and amazingly I hit the, where is it? Where's the nice friendly tags? Tags. I seem to have lost the new button. Why have I lost the new button? Hang on a second. Let me go back to the top here. Leslie Rohde. Here we go. New tag. So I'm going to do new, and it's going to ask me tag rule or macro. We'll show creating a new rule here in just a minute. So new tag. And the tag has to have a name. And so I could call it UA like I did before, but hell, let's be creative. Universal let's call it UA page tracker. There we go. Page view. Page views. There we go. Now, what type of tag is this? So here's your drop down. This is an even though the short time that I've been using this has expanded actually pretty nicely. So first, you could use, for Google Analytics, you can use Universal or Classic. Like I said, why would you use Classic Google Analytics when you can, with a push of a button, upgrade to Universal? A custom HTML tag is very interesting. We'll cover that in another episode, maybe in 2, 3, 4 weeks. Event listeners, this is really cool too, and we'll show an example of that today. A link click listener, so that you could, for example, listen for all clicks on an ad that you have running on the right rail, which will be the one that we'll show. Timer, like if you want something to pop when somebody has been on your page for a minute, maybe you want to show that as a long page view, you know, whatever. This is an event in, you could trigger an event, recording an event in Google Analytics. There are various things you can do there. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not going to go through the whole list, but AdWords conversion tracking and more analytics, because other than Universal and Classic, there's also ClickTail and ComScore are also identified pieces here. Audience, again, we'll cover some of these things later. But right now, let's just define our Universal Analytics tag. Obviously, it needs a tracking ID, so let's go ahead and plug in the tracking ID. Let's go ahead and enable display advertising features. Cool. And the type is page view. You'll notice that we can also have event, transaction, etc. Okay. This we just want a page view. There are some other things that we can do here in more settings and advanced settings we don't need to go into right now. You're not likely to need it. And then we hit save naively, and it's wrong. So it's very important to look at the details of this summary. And for those of you in chat, and I'll try to spend a lot of time in order to cover the 40-second delay in chat, but you'll notice here what's wrong as you look at this summary. If you look at UA page views, as it's covered here in this summary, look carefully at how it compares to the other tags I have defined, because you will make this mistake at least once in setting up GTM. And so, you know, hat tip to anybody who can figure out what's wrong with that picture, and I'll kill time for a moment while people try to answer that question. And like I said, this is one, you will goof this up. This will happen to you, and you'll feel stupid, like I did, like not publishing my changes. This is right second up right there with not publishing your changes. We don't have any answers yet, Corey?
On that, we have a question from the letter K.
Okay.
How did you get the tracking ID? Is it different for each tag?
The Universal Analytics tracking ID is the same that you get in Universal Analytics. The tracking code for a GTM profile you get from GTM. And so I'll walk back through that in just a second, just to make sure everybody understands that. In fact, I'll jump over to Google Analytics so we can see that. Why don't we do that now while people are trying to figure out? So
we've got two people that both Brian first, just under the wire before Terry. Brian says what rules, and Terry says no rule? Question mark.
That's it. So hat tip to the both of you guys. That's exactly right. This tag, because it has no rule, will not fire at all. The no rule. Okay. So that's a problem. We'd actually like the damn thing to fire, wouldn't we? So let's go ahead and add the rule, and then we'll go backtrack to UA stuff. So in rules, you can do it one of two ways. You can say, what am I going to fire on, or what am I not going to fire on? Actually, kind of have to sort of do both in order to not fire. Well, come on, for page view, I want to look at all page views, right? And so these are the rules that I've defined, and we'll go define a rule here in just a minute, but you'll notice that all pages, and these rules have a name, all pages matches regex of .star. That's clearly what we want. There are a couple of different ways to do an all pages rule, and when you go browse the internets on this, you'll find a couple of different schools of thought. One is to match the URL to .star. The other is to match an event of GTM.js, which is saying any place that I had the GTM code installed is where I'm going to match. They're equivalent. Obviously, you can't match .star on a page where GTM is not installed because GTM doesn't get the memo. So, whichever. I just use .star. It seems easier to keep track of, frankly. We'll talk about some of these others. These are the cool ones. Yeah, if all this was a more roundabout way to install analytics, it would be a dumb thing to do. But it's what you'd get after this that actually matters. So now let's save that rule. So now we've got all pages that are firing rule. We've got nothing else blocked, and we hit save. Okay, so now we're good, right? Now we're in business. Everybody knows we're in business now, right? Wait, not what? Not yet. What are we missing? Publish the damn thing. Yeah, exactly right. And so on this, if you haven't changed anything, and we'll cover that case. So here I go. Now I'm version 34, and if I hit publish again, it's going to tell me, hey, you know, nothing's changed. So there's not really a point in publishing. But so there we are. Now we've got magically analytics is back on our page, and the only people I've missed, you know, probably 2 or 3 of you looking at my page, it was in that interim, that short interim, where I didn't have analytics page views at all. Okay, that's great. Backtrack briefly to answer that question from the letter K. It could be, is that Agent K? That'd be pretty special. I didn't know we had Men in Black watching us. But anyway.
Special K.
Yeah, Special K could be that too.
Hey,
all
real
right.
Quick, can you add a descriptor for each edit so that you can keep track of what your edits were?
Yeah, the equivalent of Google Analytics timelines? Afraid not. At least not that I'm aware of. I don't think there's a place to do notes at all. Let's see.
What's the pencil by number 34 do?
You know, it actually edits that. It changes the version name. Yeah.
Oh, so you could say
you could
removed,
do that. Yeah, so it's like
removed UA or re-added UA or whatever.
You know, put UA back during Hangout. Okay. Yeah, good call. Let's see. So I know what. Yeah. So it changes over here. Okay. So the answer is yes. You have a limited note-taking capability to at least label what you were doing. Yeah. And so this one I should say, oops, you know, removed during, oops, removed UA during Hangout. Right. Okay, good question. Wow. Hey, cool. All right, excellent. That's kind of neat, actually. Where were we? Let's see. I want to go back to here, so I'm viewing the right one. Oh yes, answer the question. All right. So first of all, 2 different things, right? So there's the code you put on the page, which is the Google Tag Manager code, which you get here. We'll look at it in a minute. Within the profile within Google Tag Manager. So that's the first thing. So that's the code that goes on the page. The thing that goes in here when you're defining universal analytics, this tracking ID is particular to analytics. So bear in mind, GTM and analytics are completely separate from each other. GTM does not know about analytics and vice versa. So if you know that is from here. You got to go into analytics, you know, go into your admin, get tracking info, user ID. Whoops, not user ID. Sorry, tracking info. Hello, tracking code. Yes, thank you. And it's right there. Right. So that's where you get the code that you put into the I know this is going to sound silly. This is the tracking ID you put into the UA tag in GTM, PDQ, MO, USE. So it works exactly like you were putting code on the page, but instead of taking this entire tracking code that you get from Universal Analytics, instead of taking this entire block of code and putting it on your page, instead all you're taking is this item right here, because GTM already knows how to call Universal Analytics. So you use that in defining this page view. In doing something like Crazy Egg, it's going to be a different ID. So let's go look at the Crazy Egg. Where is it? I thought I had one.
One more down.
Oh, there it is, home page, Crazy Egg Test, yeah. So that's what, and this one is a custom HTML tag, which is, again, misnamed. It's a custom script tag. And so this chunk of script I copied from my admin section in Crazy Egg. So in Crazy Egg, you set up a profile, kind of like what you do in GTM, and it creates this code for you. You take this code and you put it in GTM instead of putting it on your website. And you just go, who cares, right? Well, there's a lot of reasons to care. First of all, it's a lot easier to figure out how to put it in GTM than it is on your website, even if it's WordPress. Second of all, hey, it has versions, which it turns out, thank you, Corey, You can even name what the versions mean. And so, do you have versioning of those tags or those scripts in WordPress? No, you do not. You don't even know when you copied it in there unless you were smart enough to do an annotation analytics. So there's some good reasons to use Google Tag Manager to maintain, some consistency and some history about what you're doing. Notice the other thing is, hey, I'm doing this only on my home page. Well, think about that. It's really obvious using Genesis simple hooks how to put this script on every page of my site. How do I put it on only the home page? You know what? I'd have to ask my own developer to do that. I don't know how to do that. And that's where kind of the big problem with Google Tag Manager is, because as a marketer, you're freed up from some of the dependency you have on tech people. We all know how horribly unreliable those are. Yeah, okay. Let's do kind of the next thing, which is, tracking pixels. We already talked about that briefly. Let's just, take a look at that. Let's suppose for the moment, it's not true, but let's suppose for the moment, that I have a thank you page, and I want to fire some sort of tracking code on the thank you page. So I actually say, you know what? Anybody that actually hits this thank you page, I want to put it into a remarketing audience. I don't care about the rest of them. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not. Well, I need a rule, and it's tied to that thank you page. And I just happen to have one. It's a fake because I don't actually have a thank-u.html page on my website. But this is what it would look like. And so this rule says description URL equals thank-u.html. Now that's really complicated, right? That's how you define these rules. If we want to create a new rule like that, absolutely trivial to do. You say new rule, and let's say I'm going to call it home page, for example. I already have one like this, and it can be contained, starts with, matches a regular expression, whatever. So it could be any page that contains the letter A. That's a ridiculous rule. Or it could be slash, or it could be something like thank you. Okay, any of those things. Now the contained, I'd probably want to say equals, or maybe want to say starts with. So let's say you have, let's say you're using Infusionsoft, and it's a thank you page, and so it's probably going to have question mark thank you ID, contact ID, da 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 da. You want to make sure that's actually thank you starts with rather than equals to. Common newbie mistake. So rules are how you define where your tag is going to execute. Real easy to create those where you have something in the URL that you can use. In this, let's see, I think I have one, right? This one that has a thank you page. So yeah, here's what I'm saying is that AdWords conversion, and this is all bogus information here, by the way. Don't pay any attention to that, because I'm not running AdWords to this site. But this is how I would set up AdWords conversion on my thank you page. Again, I don't actually have to do that on my site. I can do it here in Google Tag Manager, and it's a lot easier to keep track of. Just fill in the stuff, and all these things you're going to get from AdWords or Analytics, depending on how you're doing it. Now let's work through a real change. I'm going to actually add something to the website. Oh, if I can find the URL. I forgot to check the URL. I'm going to add a CTA. So an outbound call to action on my website. I'm going to add tracking of that as soon as I can find the URL. So bear with me just a moment. Who actually, I think it was actually Janet sent this. Corey, maybe you could find this while I'm doing the rest of the pieces of this. I'm looking for the Hangout sign-up link.
And the
because we just talked about this on Monday's call, remember? But I think it was Janet that posted it to me. Actually, you grab it from the Webinar Jam interface and just instant message it to me, if you will, and I'll go through the rest of this while we're talking. And so, all right, so I want to put a call to action in the sidebar of my website. that invites people to sign up for the Hangouts that we're doing every Tuesday. Seems like a brilliant thing to do, right? Because I don't know, 7 visitors a week, so that's a huge win. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to create a widget over in the sidebar that's going to have an image and a link, and then in Google Tag Manager I'm going to track clicks on that. Now, it's like, well, why would you do that? Well, because it goes off my site, so I lose ability to track it. So I don't know if people completed the sign-up or not, but at least I know whether people clicked it. That's, kind of what I'm trying to do here, right? And so over here I'm going to add a text widget. I'm going to do it, let's see here. Right there, right? And then in this, I'm gonna have an image tag, which I have to figure out in just a minute, and I'm gonna have it wrapped in an anchor, which is gonna go to my landing page. Oops, hello. Okay, and let's hope that URL is not too horrible that I'm gonna have trouble doing it. Let's see here. Oh, okay, yeah, never mind. Okay, that was going to be tough. We're going to pretend. I'll fix this after I copy the URL. Yeah, that's an ugly URL. All right, it's going to be webinarjam.net/ a bunch of stuff, which we'll fill in later. So this won't actually go anywhere as soon as I push it live. But we'll get that done later. All right. So now that's what that looks like. I mean, so it's just an image wrapped with an A. Okay, fine. The image I already have here somewhere. Let me go grab that right quick. It's media, and then we'll show you how to actually track those. So there it is. Live training every Tuesday, and as soon as it comes up and I have to do get short link, there it is. Copy that and go back to appearance widgets, paste that in there. Could have done that in a more efficient order for those who are all following along at home. Boom, boom, and I put it in there like so. And hit save, and let's go and view the site eventually. Oh, close and view the site. So we should have in the sidebar, we should have a new CTA, which we don't. Why not? Oh, no, that's weird. Broken image. Did I do some? What did I do wrong there? See, I don't actually edit code very often. I have people. Okay. All right. Wow, that was terribly embarrassing that I got that wrong. Let's see here. Oh, what? That was weird. I think I saved that. That should work. Save. Maybe I didn't wait for it. Let's go back here and visit site. Well, that's an awesome user experience. Okay, well, we'll deal with a broken image here in just a minute. Let's go measure the outbound links to it, which are not going to happen very often, given it's a broken image. And so the way we measure that is we want to measure clicks on a link, right? Because we've got an A tag there. We have a link. We want to measure clicks on it. Now I have one of these already. Installed here and working. So we'll take a look at that one, and then we'll create this new one, and then I'll go fix the image at some point. So the first thing is I have one. So outbound click, for example, you look at this tag. That tracks all outbound clicks, and so that says that there's it's named outbound links in user analytics. And it's a click. And the element URL, so that's the URL in the element, so that's the tag href, right, or the ahref, has a value that's empty, which means it'll match anything. And so, okay, well that tracks all outbound clicks, which could be a lot, right? But then I have another one. Where is do I have the bio click still on here? I do not. Okay, we'll create that one then. So one of the things I might want to know is how many times are people clicking on my LinkedIn profile, all right? And so this is www.linkedin.com/in/LeslieRhodey. So I can easily track who's clicking on this just by setting up a special rule for my LinkedIn profile and then setting up a listener to track those links. Now, why would you want to do that? Let's say you're an affiliate marketer. That should be pretty obvious then why you would want to do it. You know, are my calls to action on the right rail of my blog actually getting traction? Are people actually clicking on them? You really don't, as an affiliate marketer, you typically, or often, if not typically, you're not going to have kind of a round-trip confirmation of an order. So you're not going to really be able to do end-to-end funnel analytics like we do on an e-commerce site. However, you can get something that's close to being the equivalent of an add to cart, right? So, for example, you have an e-commerce site, people hit a category page, a product page, they hit add to cart. Yeah, they haven't checked out yet, but at that point, that add to cart option activity is almost the same as what you get as an affiliate marketer when somebody clicks off your site to the affiliate offer. If that makes sense. That at least tells you that your site and your content and the ad that you're placing on your right-hand sidebar is at least effective in getting the click. That's better information than you would get any other way. So yes, you should definitely be doing that. Let's say you're a lead gen guy and you've got something over on the right-hand sidebar. Okay, fair enough. You can certainly get analytics because you're going to send, complete analytics, or you're going to send them to your own custom thank you page. True, but then you still need to define a funnel that says, well, where did it come from? And so let's say you have, 6 or 8 or 10 kind of key pages on your website where there's an opt-in form. And so you could determine how many opt-ins you're getting. You can get that data because you can just track the completion on the thank you page. But which of those pages is actually getting the most people to start the opt-in process? Oh, that's a different question, isn't it? You can define different funnels for that, or you can use eventing for it. And I think there are pluses and minuses both ways. All right. So certainly, clicks to CTAs has value. It depends on what you're trying to measure as to whether you use that or something else. So let's look at. I must have deleted it in preparation for this, so let's go ahead and do this. So the first thing we have to have is we have to be listening to all clicks, all clicks on links, and that's what the link click listener does. That's hard to say too, by the way. So the link click listener, and this is just a standard thing. If you want to screenshot this right now, this is the way you will use this on your site. It's the same. You should be doing almost exactly this. The only thing that you might want to question is whether or not it's a 2-second timeout or not, right? But that's a silly question, frankly. You should just use 2 seconds to be done with it. The tag type is specifically link click listener, and that's over near event listener right here. And so that's special to Google Tag Manager. It's basically creating an event within Google Tag Manager. I'm executing on all pages. I wouldn't have to execute on all pages. I could execute on only a portion of my site. But in this particular case, I want to make sure that any CTA I put anywhere on the site, I can listen for clicks on it, right? So this is the foundation where I'm now telling Google Tag Manager that I want to listen to clicks. The next thing is I have to have a rule about what clicks I'm going to listen to. So let's go ahead and define a rule for LinkedIn profile, assuming that I think that's important. Okay. So the URL, and actually I want, this was another one of those errors I made. I want element URL, not URL. URL is the page you're on. Element URL is the URL in the tag, so in the A tag, right? And if it contains LinkedIn. Now that's maybe a little sloppy. I maybe should make sure it says contain linkedin.com just in case I write about LinkedIn on my blog, right? And so the slug happens to be stuff you should know about LinkedIn. It's going to end up containing LinkedIn, and that's not what I want to track. So here what I've said is the rule LinkedIn profile is any tag that, any href equal, that contains LinkedIn.com. Okay, I'm still not tracking anything yet. All I was to define a rule. Now I need to fire something on it. And so tags, so I'm going to create a new tag, and now I'm going to say LinkedIn, LinkedIn clicks. Okay. And this is going to be a UA. Oh, and I forgot to copy my name. Let me back up. No, I can do it. I didn't do it this way. Select the tag type. Now this is going to be a universal analytics. So I'm going to track an event into UA. And so I've got to have my UA tag, which is right here, UA tracking ID. If you have to replay this 17 times to get this, serves you right, I did. So instead of a page view, wait, I want an event. Now this is entirely up to you as to what you want this to look like. And so let me show you what I have. Let's see. It won't. Maybe it'll show. Maybe it won't. Let's go look and see. Audience, behavior, events, overview. And so you can see some of my testing. So here, for example, I have all events, and this is where I was testing these. Whoops, that's not going to show me enough about outbound links. Oh, come on. I'm not satisfied with your pop-up. How's that? Let me see. I was hoping to get a little bit more detail here, but it's not going to show it to me. Yeah, okay. Or let's just discuss this. So within analytics, you have the ability to group events together. And so for this, I'm going to call this in the category of outbound clicks, which you saw was one of my categories over there. And it's a click, and the label I'm going to call it is LinkedIn profile. And these are entirely up to you. These can be anything you want to call them. Let's start with it. Non-interaction hit false means it's an interaction. Why they named it that way, I don't know. It seems like interaction true would have been a better way to say that, but you know, the double negative there is really confusing. That deals with what you call bounce rate, right? So if I consider somebody who hits my site and then goes to my LinkedIn profile, do I want that to show as a bounce or not? And anyway, that's the interaction. So see, now what I'm doing is, so I've got a tag named LinkedIn clicks that's going to track in-user universal analytics in this category as it clicked on my LinkedIn profile. So when I save that and publish it, anytime I click that, I'm going to show it, and you know what? I'll prove it to you, because we can use real-time event tracking to show it. So if I go over to real-time in events, you see there are none right now. We should be showing somebody on site. I might have to hit refresh to do that. And then when I go in on site, let's make sure it refreshes. Active users on site, amazingly, just me. Wow, high traffic website. And so now when I hit, oh, did I actually publish that, by the way? Didn't you catch me? I did publish it, good. All right, so what was that, Corey?
Does there need to be a rule on that one?
Oh, did I not have a rule? Ah, ha, ha. You see, it's easy to make that mistake, isn't it? So I was all, talking and not actually paying attention. So good catch, good catch. Where are we? What do I call it?
One more down.
LinkedIn clicks, yeah. So yes, what's my firing rule? What should it be? Let me look at the list of rules. What should it be?
At least all pages if it's a LinkedIn click from the sidebar.
No, it's LinkedIn profile. Because the rule, let's go look at that again. This rule is on the element URL, not the page URL. You see? Yeah. That's another error that contributed to the 35 versions I have. So LinkedIn clicks needs to trigger on the rule where element URL is equal to LinkedIn. So it's that one right there. So thanks for catching that. That would have taken 17 more minutes in analytics to figure out what the hell is going on. And so now, sure enough, we have LinkedIn. LinkedIn looks a lot like LinkClick. LinkedIn clicks. Wow, that's hard. It triggers on LinkedIn profile clicks. Right? And so now, let's publish. Oh, now to answer that question, though, that's interesting. You bring up a subtle point there by implication. So how come LinkedIn clicks triggering on LinkedIn profile, how did that get applied to all pages? And that's because of the link click listener. And this is right, so it's going to two steps. So the link click listener is listening on all pages, which allows LinkedIn clicks to even be noticed at all. See how that's happening?
Yeah.
Right, so for example, I could say, well, I only want to know about LinkedIn clicks on my home page. That would be weird, but okay. So I could run the link click listener on the home page and then run LinkedIn clicks, LinkedIn profile, but this, because it's a link click listener, is only going to be running on the home page. Well, all right, that's weird. I mean, but okay, you could do it. Right, so you were publishing version 35, 36 rather. And so now we go over here to events. To be sure enough, we have, you know, one person on site. And if we go and we click the LinkedIn profile, and then we go over to Events Analytics, and we see the event. And look at that, outbound clicks. Its event type is click. We dive into it. We find that click is on that event label. And so, and this can be used to determine, all right, well, you know, what CTAs are actually getting a better response. Now, imagine if I had an ad rotator there. So let's say that instead of advertising, and I really need to figure out why that image is broken, but so instead of, you know, this single image here for our Webinar Jam sign up, let's say that was using an ad rotator. The URLs differ. So depending upon, no matter what the ad rotator put on the page, the click itself is going to trigger a particular URL match, right? And so that URL match is going to show up in my outbound clicks, and I'm going to be able to determine which things are getting more clicks. That's the key message there, is that if you're doing affiliate marketing or anything involving, you know, CTAs that go outbound to a page where you no longer control it, and there's a lot of cases like that. If I have a thank you page that I can control, then I've got, you know, I've got conversion all the way around. But if I don't, how do I know what's being effective? And I only know that if I'm tracking clicks on that call to action. So let's see here. Let's close that. Let's see if anybody has questions about that, where we are right now. And there's a couple kind of wrap-up things I think it would be worthwhile to cover.
All right. We'll let the questions catch up to video, I guess.
Yeah, right. Indeed. Time delays on the interwebs. My notes here. Yeah.
And just as a reminder, yes, there will be a replay. It should go live a few minutes after we finish at youtube.com/marketersbraintrust.
You said that in great radio voice, too. That was good.
With a face like this, you need a radio voice.
Yeah, that's Andy Jenkins' joke. You can't use that.
It's older than Andy.
I know, that's true. Wow, older than Andy. Wow. I guess I can't actually say that, but whatever. All right, so yeah, so that's not even the right URL. So why is that not working? Oh, that's the stupid WordPress thing where it's the URL of the page where the image shows, and like, sorry, I'm stopped down here on ridiculous things about this, why that media doesn't show correctly. I used the wrong.
We did have one question while you fix that URL.
Sure.
It was an interesting question from Terry. He says, Genesis hooks, ? Where you were entering your code. Was that called simple hooks? And are hooks only in the Genesis framework? Would be my questions in relation to that, because I don't use Genesis that often.
Well, okay, yeah. There's always a way to do it, and it's going to be very elevated on the theme. And so, actually, let me do two things there. I'll answer. There are like 3 embedded questions. So let me do all of those as soon as I recover from the stupidity of having copied the wrong URL. So this weird thing about WordPress that it thinks it needs to have a page associated with the image. And so, I mean, if we actually copy in the right URL and save that, and it should actually be, oh look, it's correct. Okay, so there we go. Woohoo! And it should go even the right place. Oh no, it didn't, because I didn't copy the full URL. All right, so let's cover where you would put this, depending upon what theme you're using and stuff like that. And so there's always some quote unquote hooks for any of the frameworks. So Thesis has one, Genesis has one, etc. We're using simple hooks. There are some other things like simple sidebars and a whole list. I think we have, if memory serves, 4 different Genesis add-on plugins that we use whenever we're using Genesis for a client project. That's the first thing. The other thing is there's a place in native WordPress that you can do this. You wouldn't actually have to use the Genesis capabilities. I just happen to be very familiar with it. And so if we go look at that, that's actually in, I think I want to say settings. Let's see here. It got quiet. Did I lose you? Oh, you're just.
He had to take a quick call, Leslie.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay, let's see here. It is in, I want to say general settings, general maybe, and I don't generally do it this way, and so I'm having to find it. Hold on, just a moment. But there is a place to add code, if you will, in the head section and the body section within any of your themes. Where did I find it? Oh, I see. I was like, yeah. So in Genesis, there's a way to do it. And then in Simple Hooks, there's a better way to do it. Thesis, there's a way to do it. There's a bunch of different plugins that manage. Here it is in just native Genesis. There are plugins that will also do this. Script Manager is one that comes from way back in the day. So anything that allows you to install this code, like I said, there is a whole bunch of choices. Genesis and Thesis are the major frameworks, and they both support this directly. So, depending on which one you're using, you wouldn't have to use simple hooks at all. Like I said, this output to head, that would be sufficient to do the data layer, and then output to footer, that would be sufficient to do the body of the code. So, the thing about WordPress is there are a bunch of different frameworks, and they all work slightly differently, but they all provide the same capability. So there is a way to do it. If you're using some other CMS, there's almost always, I mean, I can't imagine that there would be a case where there's not a way to add code to the head section. To add code to the end body, just before end body, maybe it's a little less well supported, but that too you should be able to do. And that's it. As long as you can do those two things, you're golden. You can get GTM to work. So, yeah. Let's see. I can probably exit share screen at this point unless there's something else people need to see in terms of the operation of this. What do you think, Michelle?
I think that's fine.
Okay. Well, I'm going to exit screen share here then. Wow, that's a neat image. If I can actually stop screen sharing. There we go.
There you are.
All
there,
right.
that's what you're looking for.
Yeah. All right, so child theme, header, footer. Yeah, that's correct, Brian. Yep, Jim. Thesis has a hooks plugin. May need a contest for those who can get a set of GTM minus deployed in less than 30 iterations. Well, fair enough, Terry. And so doing it the first time is hard, by the way. Just saying, didn't take me near that long on the second site, and it's easier to, yeah. I mean, I was doing a whole bunch of testing anyway. I was throwing iterations at a problem, and so the reality is, I mean, I had it working after 10. Okay, not to seem too lame. It didn't take me 30 to do it. So it won't take you 10 if you just kind of follow along. It's actually easy to do, and the upside potential is really great. Now, one thing we did not talk about is that you cannot put split testing scripts in Google Tag Manager. It doesn't work. And this is a technical geeky thing. So if you want to put convert.com on your website, and yes, you should put convert.com on your website, and then use it to do real split testing, you have to actually put that code on the website. You can't put it in GTM. Reason: GTM, and we'll get to your question, Dennis, in just a moment. The GTM does not guarantee order of execution or actually the timing of execution of scripts. And so when you look at that list of tags I defined, it doesn't tell you when those are going to execute, in what order. Convert.com and other things like it, Convert.com, Website Optimizer, any of those, they depend on what's called synchronous execution. They have to be the last. They have to have the entire page rendered before they execute. There is not currently a facility within Google Tag Manager to support synchronous tags. There is no, I'll repeat that, there is no capability at all to support synchronous tags. All split test managers, all split test scripts require synchronous execution. Now, Dennis Vanderheiden at Convert.com is very clear and explicit about this. It just does not work, and don't try to do it. Other people who have messaged about it have been trying to finesse it. They're covering over a problem. Split testing does not work except synchronous. So, just saying, just bear that in mind. That's okay. I mean, if the only thing you had to put on your website was GTM and Convert.com, it's still a win. Everything else you want to do in testing and tracking can be done in GTM. That's a big win compared to having to figure out how to do it either in analytics with filters or doing it in your CMS. So just that's a special case. What about that? What about Google Experiments? Actually, Brian, I don't know, but again, Google Experiments actually, if I think about that correctly, let's see, they use URL variation rather than JavaScript on the page. We have to take a careful look at that as to how it activates one versus the other. I don't like Google Experiments for a variety of other reasons, which has caused me not to even investigate the question. Sad to say, and I know that's kind of maybe a lame answer, but the I don't think Google Experiments is worth using. I have one client that used it because they couldn't figure out Convert. I couldn't figure out why they couldn't use Convert, but I don't think Google Experiments measures up as an A/B split testing tool. Let me just say that. If you want to use that, by all means, let us know how that goes. Because it uses URL variations, you might be able to make it work, but I have to think that through. Because it's still cooking the user, and it's still changing. I still think it needs to be synchronous. I still believe it needs to be synchronous. Because how does it know when to or how to switch out the variation being shown? That has to be done dynamically. It's not coded in the page. So it has to run last. That's the only way it can possibly operate, I think. But I haven't actually thought about it. I apologize. Dennis asked about what ad rotators do you recommend. Actually, there are a couple that we're playing with right now. There's a couple that Dan had a long history of success with, and what's the name? That was a really funny name. Who sees what? What was the name of that? Who sees what? We get WordPress plugin. I think that's yes. It's OZH who sees what. So I mean, it's like here's OZH Oz's who sees what. That's one that Dan has used for quite some time. And then there's one literally in this named Add Rotator, I think is the name of it. Let's let me verify that. It's actually installed on a couple of my sites, but I haven't actually. I'm not logged into them, and I'm not going to try right now. Yeah, well, it's one's named Add Rotate. Add Rotate. And then there was a third one I've looked at was Kento Add Rotator. You should at least, I mean, look at those. I mean, Oz's Who Sees What, I know it has a lot of really very cool variation in it. Add Rotate, I've actually had that running. I had that running for a short time, and I turned it off. The other ad was lame. It was broken. And so, look at a couple of those. Any of them would be okay. As long as they do what you want in terms of rotating ads, right? Google Tag Manager is for this purposes of clicking, tracking the outbound clicks, only cares about what the element URL is, and so it should be okay. It should work fine, but do test it. That's one of those things where you can have some funny interaction. So that's what I would say about that. The way the ad rotators are supposed to work in WordPress, right? They're not using JavaScript. They're actually in PHP. They're plugins, right? So they're using PHP. So they're changing what gets rendered on the page. And then the Google Tag Manager code, which is on the page, then runs in JavaScript. And so the JavaScript is looking at a fully rendered page at that point. So there should be no interaction. The only place you're going to get into something funky is where, for example, if you were trying to track what AdSense outbound clicks there were. Wrong. Now you're getting into the whole asynchronicity problem, because AdSense is JavaScript, and so when AdSense puts JavaScript on your page and then fills it in with ads, and then GTM is trying to track which URLs in those ads got clicked, it's not going to work. We can't guarantee that when AdSense and GTM ran. So don't try something weird like that. But if something is something that is a WordPress plugin, is actually in the content loop. It's PHP that changes what gets rendered on the page. As long as it's rendered on the page, then GTM is going to track it correctly. So I know that was a highly technical explanation for what seemed like a simple question, but
well, it takes an engineer to make something simple so complicated, Leslie.
Thank you very much for that, Michelle. I really appreciate that. Yes. So looks like that is all of the questions we have, and so let's see. And we lost Corey to a phone call, probably with a client, and so let's discuss very briefly. God, wow, we're 4:30 after the hour. So so next week, Dan is going to lead the charge with some discussion about the whole mobile and blocking JavaScript and CSS and WP includes and a whole bunch of nightmarish stuff about that. Hopefully he and I get to talk about that before he goes on air. I mean, it's just one of those. This is breaking news. We only really heard about this today. Hopefully Google has not done something incredibly stupid here. But it is probably something you need to be aware of. Desktop search peaked a couple years ago. The growth in search is actually from mobile. If you're not mobile responsive, that's a problem for you. And in terms of mobile search, I'm not sure that I think that that's as important as mobile responsiveness, but it should be important. And I mean, if you fail to come up in search on mobile, yeah, I mean, it can't be a good thing. So yeah. All right, Michelle. Anything to add before we? Actually, we can't close because Corey's running the show.
Corey will close.
No, I can close. I'm just, yeah. I'll close when we're ready.
Okay, fair enough. So, Michelle, you got anything to add before we sign up?
Well, I know that they talk about having 32 iterations, but the beautiful thing of that is, right, is that if you need to make a change, you can. You don't have to call if you have access to that, you need to fix it, you need to tweak it. There's no IT involved, there's none of this other stuff. And so, regardless if it's 100 iterations to get it perfect, it's not having to crank open every page of your website every time. And so, to me, that is a beautiful thing. So,
yeah, and the way we'd
it's
actually
not 100 iterations, though.
Yeah, no, it's not. But I mean, then the way we would actually add, and so let's talk about, remarketing code. I just kind of glossed over, right? But the way we actually do remarketing is we have the remarketing code on all of our pages, and we define the audiences based upon other criteria, right? Now, I guess you're doing that in Facebook rather than in our website. Is that true?
The pixel goes on Facebook on every page, on your website, and then in Facebook we define the audience based on where they traveled on the site.
Right. So the URL matching is actually on Facebook rather than on our website.
Right.
Yeah. And so I kind of glossed over that, and just bear in mind that that's where you're going to define your different audiences is actually over on Facebook or AdWords as opposed to over on your website. On your website, what you're going to do is just say, oh, I need remarketing pixel. Well, guess what? Really easy to do. Now, you could do it in WordPress. You could go into the dashboard and drop the script into the footer. That's true. Or you can go into Google Tag Manager and drop the script and hit publish. Okay, those seem like the same, right? Well, yeah, except in Google Tag Manager, you automatically get when you did it. And what I didn't show are some of the tools in Chrome that allow you to check that you did it correctly. There are a couple of those. What are their names right quick for those of you who want to do the
Facebook, it's Facebook Pixel Helper.
Tag Assist on Google.
Tag Assist is one. And then the other one is kind of cool is a GTM Sonar, which allows you to kind of almost prototype. And there's one I haven't actually used yet, which assists in actually getting a GTM code, stuff right as code editor for GTM. And these are all, But anyway, those are something you might want to take a look at. But those are, it's Code Assist. Tag Assistant is the one that will at least show you whether or not the tags are actually operating, which is important. So, yeah. Okay, well, I think that's all we have for this week. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with the Braintrust. And again, next week, Dan's going to be leading the charge with all that stuff about mobile. And so until then, thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next Hangout.
Oh.